When you take a look at the 2024 Philadelphia Phillies roster, it is loaded in every which direction. You take a look at the lineup, and you've got Bryce Harper, you've got Trey Turner, Alec Boehm has become a star, Kyle Schwarber, one of the great power hitters in baseball, JT Realmuto, when healthy, also can be considered a star. The pitching staff, silly. It's led by Zach Wheeler. Ranger Suarez, though, might actually be the best pitcher on the entire roster. Then you've got guys like Aaron Nola and Christopher Sanchez who can throw together a shutdown performance every fifth day. The bullpen is pretty loaded as well. Some great names, Hoffman, Strahm, Alvarado, you know them. How about the front office, though? After a decade of losing, the front office changed hands, and then the winning began. And a part of that front office is a name that you might not be that familiar with. But if you're a diehard in Philly, Corrine Landrey is a name that you really should know. Corrine is the director of baseball operations for the Philadelphia Phillies, but her journey began with music. That led her to a Phillies blog, which then led her to the Phillies front office, where she has been for more than 7 years. So while, of course, Dave Dombrowski, Sam Fuld, Rob Thompson, even John Middleton get a lot of the credit, it's the people behind the scenes that need a little bit more credit sometimes when it comes to the good times that the Phillies are in right now. My name is Pat Gallen. This is A Gallon of Questions. I sit down with the Director of Baseball Operations for the Phillies, Corrine Landrey.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. You are the Director of Baseball Operations for the Phillies. Before we get into that, though, the backstory, I think, is really interesting in that we sort of crossed paths because you started your writing career with Crash Burn Alley, is that right? And I was at Phillies Nation right around the same time, and look where we are.
Look where we are.
Who'd have thunk it?
I know. I remember reading you back in the day.
I remember reading you as well, and so now you're the Director of Baseball Operations. But take me back to that time. Like, was writing always something that interested you? Like, was that always in school and all that?
No. So I went to school for music education.
Right.
And I taught high school band for a few years, and realized in doing that I didn't want to spend my career teaching, and kind of had a early 20s moment of crisis. What am I going to do with my life? And I'm not sure I ever actually decided what I was going to do with my life, but I stumbled into this career in baseball. So I started writing not because I fancy myself a writer, but there was so much good writing on the internet at that time about baseball.
Yeah.
I've always loved baseball.
Especially here in Philly, there was a ton.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot, and the more I learned, the more I wanted to be a part of the conversation. So I kind of needed the outlet to get into the conversation, and that led to opportunities that connected me with the Phillies and ultimately got me here.
So are you the only former band teacher that works in a front office in Major League Baseball? Do you know that? Is that a stat?
The only one I know of. There is a former music education major. I'm not sure if she ever actually taught, but that works at the commissioner's office.
Oh, okay.
But I'm the only one I know of in the front
Not
office.
a
There
lot
are
of company.
others I'd love to know.
So then you thought music? Did you think music was gonna be the path at some point?
That was, and when you're 18 years old and make that decision, what you're gonna do for your life.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll be a high school band teacher, and I did it for a few years, and I was like, that's enough of that.
That's not really what I want to do here. So then you got to start with Crash Burn Alley. How long were you writing Phillies wise?
So Phillies, it was about 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I think.
Yep.
And then through that, I did some writing for Fangraphs and MLB.com, so kind of branched out to the larger MLB.
Sure.
At that point.
Now everyone has a podcast or has a website. I feel like that's the golden age of Phillies content because finally the team was good 2008 through 2000 or 2007 through 2011, even into 12 a little bit. And there was just such good writing, and there are so many people that have made that a career. You obviously branched out into your own path, but Mike Bauman is still writing for Fangraphs, and we've got people, Corey Seidman, who's here every day in the dugout. So it's kind of cool that, that we took that, you took that path and made it work.
There's 2 other Crash Burn writers in front offices, Spencer Bingle with the Red Sox and Ben Harris over with the Brewers.
That's right. That's pretty cool company to be in. So you go from band teacher to getting into baseball writing, and then from there you're writing for a couple of years, and then the Phillies call? Was it just that simple?
Basically, yes.
Sometimes it is that simple, right?
Former director of baseball operations, Scott Friedman, reached out and was like, "We have a internship. Do you want to apply for that?" And I did, and so I spent a year as an intern in the baseball operations group.
Okay.
Before then joining full time.
So that's all about analytics, math, strong suit for you?
Yeah, I loved math as a kid. As far as your favorite academic subject goes. So that was a natural fit, and that's part of why I was attracted to baseball analytics and writing kind of from that mindset.
Sure.
So yeah, I was a part of the analytics group, the R&D department for a couple years, and then when Scott Friedman left, kind of filled some of the gaps in his departure by transitioning back to general baseball operations.
Do you miss the writing side of things at all?
I do sometimes.
Yeah.
I like.
Get a chance to vent on.
Yeah,
on things.
it's really nice to have a finished product, and you think through a problem or you observe something, you kind of work it through, and all right, I can put it aside now. I've thought it through, and I'm done with that. So yeah, there's something nice about finishing a piece. Yeah.
So you grew up in the area. Were you always a Phillies fan?
I was always a Phillies fan.
Okay.
Yeah, grew up in North Wilmington. Went to Mount Pleasant High School.
Okay.
Yeah, grew up a huge Phillies fan. My first team I remember was the '92 Phillies.
Okay.
Which was a terrible team.
Yeah.
But set me up for really enjoying that '93 run as a 7-year-old kid.
Yeah, same here, because we're sort of the same age, and that '93 team meant so much to so many kids in this area, and set the path for loving the Phillies. There were some hard times. I'm certainly glad we don't have to go through those like we did during that time period in the '90s, and then in the 2000s between that great team in 2011 to now. And so that's where you come into play and this great front office. So take me into what a director of baseball operations does.
Yeah, so I guess there's kind of a few main components to what I do. I'd say roster management, contracts, and I work with our player procurement group.
Okay.
So a lot of that is working with our analytics group or our scouting group and kind of getting all the information we need to give Dave the information he needs to decide anything as far as the trade deadline or
Sure.
off-season and all the player analysis work.
So are you poring over spreadsheets on a daily basis? Is that part of the gig?
There's a lot of spreadsheets involved, yeah, for sure.
So you get a chance to work with Dave Dombrowski, who's been in this game for forever, and Sam Fold, who's a great young general manager. What has it been like being, side by side with guys that have been in the game, played in the game, been around for so long?
Extremely humbling. One of my favorite things about baseball in general is just how much there is to learn and to know. You'll never even scratch the surface
Sure.
of all the depth that there is to the game. So having the opportunity to listen to and observe Dave and his process and be a part of those conversations is just tremendous. You learn so much, and hearing from Sam and the player's perspective it just adds so much depth to my awareness of the game.
Sure.
And it's one of the best parts of it, in my opinion.
There aren't many women in the position that you're in. Do you feel like maybe slightly like a pioneer of sorts in this space?
I hope I'm not. I think that 10 years ago I would be, but there's so many more women in similar roles to me than what you saw in the 90s. There was Kim Eng and Jean Afterman.
Sure.
And I may be forgetting someone, but there weren't many others.
Right.
So I think it's changing, and it's been really cool to see. Even just in the 7 years that I've been working the front office, there's been a lot more women involved. It's been really cool to be a part of that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not lost on you, how important that is, going from 2 or 3 or 4 sprinkled around the game to where it is now.
Yeah, it's really really impactful, really special. I think as the game expands, baseball operations departments are just so much bigger.
Yeah.
You need additional perspectives and additional people around to help kind of integrate all the information and bring all those different angles to how we can be a better team.
Sure.
So it's been really cool to observe that.
Do you have goals beyond where you are right now as like general manager, vice president, something like that? Like, does that sound good to you?
I have a hard time imagining getting there, but I had a hard time imagining getting here. So, who knows? But right now, genuinely, I just aspire to help the Phillies win.
Sure.
And I think that we have such a special team right now. Bringing home a championship is kind of what motivates me and motivates the whole department each day.
Why do you think you have been able to succeed in the way you have in the place you're in right now?
That's a good question. I think that.
What's the secret sauce?
I think there's definitely no secret sauce, but it's showing up, it's putting in the work, it's having an opinion, it's being an active listener and kind of contributing to the conversation, and just finding those things that need to be done and getting them done, asking the questions that need to be asked. And I enjoy thinking about processes. I enjoy thinking about how we can be more effective and improve, who we are as a department. So I try to work on those tasks and hopefully succeed and hopefully help us get better. Did
you always feel empowered to be able to give your opinion from the moment you walked in the door?
My first day as an intern, I remember Andy McPhail was the president of the organization at that point, and I walked around. My supervisor walked me around and introduced me to everybody, and Andy was on the phone. So I wasn't able to say hi to him, and half an hour later he pokes his head into like this little office where I was just to introduce himself and say hi. So from day one I've felt valued and like I'm wanted here.
Sure.
And able to share my opinion, and that hasn't changed, whether it was Andy and Matt to now Dave and Sam. I think we do a really good job of empowering people to do their jobs and to make us better.
Behind the scenes, who do you think has been like the most impactful for you, personally speaking, to get where you are? Who's helped you along the way?
I mean, so many. It's hard to call out one person. I think that.
Anyone you lean on when you need to vent or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think venting, you kind of lean on your colleagues and the people that you start with. But as far as like leadership and mentorship, Sam Fold has been amazing. Ned Rice has been here as long as I have, and has been really important in kind of helping me learn what I need to know.
Sure.
and to grow into my current role.
Do you get a chance to get to know the players a little bit?
I don't spend a ton of time with the players, no.
No, the front office has some incredible talent on its own, so I guess that's enough behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So analytically speaking, I think we're in a much different, it seems like yearly we're in a different place than we are, but over the last maybe 15 years, I mean, you can speak to this better than I can, but with analytics in baseball, it's just exploded, and for a long time it felt like maybe the Phillies were a little bit behind. That does not seem to be the case anymore, but you still have a job. What is the bridge now that you are trying to build when it comes to analytics and implementing that to the game and to the players on the field? I
think the biggest challenge facing every front office is the quantity of information available. Okay. And it's a challenge for the R&D department itself, and generating the takeaways and the important things to strategies to apply, whether it's in player analysis, in on-field strategies.
Sure.
Like, there's so much information to sift through and go through. So identifying what are the important areas, like what are the most impactful routes of research, and then what are the most impactful routes that we can then package and communicate to the decision makers. So it's a massive, massive problem. It takes a lot of people to sort through how to get valuable insight and then implement it on the field. Right,
because it seems like every team's got piles and heaps of information, but how do you best get it to where it needs to go in the quickest and best way possible? That's the goal every day, is to try and do that?
Yeah, and to take active feedback. I mean, the other component of baseball teams is it's constantly changing. Like
sure.
who's who's the decision maker, who's the manager, like these things, who are the players. They all process information differently. So being able to be flexible to getting the information in forms that people can digest and use.
So you came here a little over 7 years ago, and again, the team wasn't very good at that time. Now they are. This place is packed every night. You get to walk into a ballpark that has 45,000 people pretty much every night. What is that feeling like for you on a daily basis?
It's incredible. I mean, the traffic's not great. But
No, it's not. It's not.
But no, I like we were talking about earlier, I grew up at the Vet in the 90s with a lot of empty seats. And I loved being here as a fan in 07 through 2011. And it's so cool to kind of have that energy and excitement back here. It's a really special experience.
What's your family think of all of this?
My family loves it. They still live in North Wilmington. My parents do. My dad grew up a Phillies fan. He grew up in Wayne. So they come to a lot of games.
I bet.
Yeah.
It's a good time to be a Phillies fan. What we do at the end of every show, since my last name is Gallen, it's called a gallon of questions. Okay. So there are random questions inside the can. Would you like to pick them out and see if we can answer them? Mostly baseball questions in there. Might be some other weird ones thrown in.
Ooh.
So you get to travel a little bit with the team?
A little bit.
Okay. So what's best stadium other than CBP? Best
stadium other than CBP, I would say I'm a baseball history nerd.
Okay.
Fenway Park.
Fenway.
It's just there's something really cool about like walking into a stadium that I know my grandparents were at.
Sure. Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
cool.
And there are no wrong answers here, by the way, so that's a very good one. What do you do to get away from baseball?
I don't think
Is
I
there
have a good
anything?
answer.
Is there anything you do?
I mean, family time is
Yeah.
kind of all you have time for.
Sure. Last song you listened to?
I'm stuck in the 90s, so
Nothing wrong with that.
I was listening to a 90s playlist on the way, and I remember Hootie and the Blowfish
Heck
came
yeah.
on. I was like, oh, I haven't
Hootie
heard
and the
Hootie in a
Blowfish,
while.
my first concert.
Really?
I was 11 years old
Really?
over at the, they used to call it the East Center. I guess it's something else now. What's the coolest instrument,
That would have
band
to be
teacher?
the oboe.
The oboe?
That was my instrument.
Was
so,
it really?
Yeah, gotta
still
stay
play?
true to it. No, I don't.
No, when's the last time you played the oboe?
When I was teaching, so it's been about 10 years.
Time to pull the oboe back out. Should do the national anthem with the oboe. Most difficult position in baseball to project?
Oh, that's a tough one. Right now, let's say catcher right now, because of the uncertainty of the strike zone and future framing and all that.
I did not expect you to say that, but it's a really good answer. Best part of working for the Phillies?
Being in the ballpark every day.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Let's see how many we can get to here. Most difficult part of your job?
Figuring out what to prioritize. There's so much that needs to happen and needs to get done, and what are the things that we have time for and are going to make us better.
Very difficult to do. Who's got the best hair on the Phillies? Got some really good options.
We do, and no disrespect to Brandon Marsh, who has incredible hair, but I don't think I can get past Bryce's hair.
It's pretty good.
Phenomenal.
Does that come up on the spreadsheets? Hair when you're projecting players?
I think I should add a column. Yeah, grading out everybody's hair.
Let me know if you do. Yeah. Favorite non-Philly of all time that is not active?
Oh wow, favorite non-Philly.
Yeah.
There was a time when my answer to that was Roy Halladay, and when he came to the Phillies, that
changed the game for a lot of people.
I mean, Ken Griffey Jr.
Ken Griffey Jr. Yeah. Mine too.
Yeah, love Ken Griffey Jr.
A favorite baseball movie?
League of Their Own.
League of Their Own is a great one. My son had been on a Sandlot kick for a while.
Also,
he loves it.
Fantastic.
All right, word association. I'll give you a name. What's the first word that comes to mind?
All right.
Kyle Schwarber.
June.
June. That's a good one. Dave Dombrowski.
Leader.
Also good hair, though.
I almost said hair. I mean, I was primed by the hair question, but hair was the first thing that came to mind.
Philly fanatic.
Not one word, but best. I mean, just the best. He's
best.
Fantastic.
Jimmy Rollins.
One word's hard. I just think of Electric.
Electric.
Yeah.
And Roy Halladay was the last one.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
The greatest.
The greatest. The greatest. All right, let's do one more, and I'll let you go on that one. Best piece of advice you've ever gotten from someone in baseball?
Have an opinion.
Okay.
And that, I think, entails being prepared.
Sure.
Being prepared for to be asked a question and answer it from an informed place.
Corrine, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Great
Pat.
to catch up with
you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Huge thanks to Corrine Landrey for joining me here on A Gallon of Questions. And it's just so cool to see her career arc go from band teacher to blogger to Phillies front office. That is pretty awesome. And it just goes to show you there's so many different ways to get from point A to point B to point C. And she is certainly proving that. But also kudos to her for creating that path that led her to the Phillies front office and possibly beyond. Who knows? Maybe GM in the future? You never know. And for women in the game, for a long time, it was not the case that you could get a job like this. So she is certainly opening doors and creating new pathways, not only for herself, but for other women in the industry as well. And look, if the Phils go deep this year, obviously you can thank Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson and Sam Fold and Bryce Harper and John Middleton, all the stars of the Phillies orbit. But if you think about it, it's people like Corrine behind the scenes that deserve a little bit of love too. My name is Pat Gallen. This has been A Gallon of Questions. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.